Hello and welcome, my name is Nate from Video Games Recon, and as per usual we're going to be recapping this week's popular culture and gaming news that I find interesting and think you will too. Please keep in mind this video was recorded either early Friday evening or Saturday morning on UK time, so some important news could be missing and that this video will be posted most likely on a Saturday or Sunday. Anywho, enough jibber jabber, without any further ado, let's do it to it. First, let's start off with a curious movie trailer which supposes, what if the Great Wall of China wasn't created to stop the Mongolians from attacking China and was instead created to stop big ass monsters? Oh, and also because movies, Matt Damon's around in ye olde China for some reason. I'm sure this film will be a fun action-packed popcorn movie. And I don't know if it's just me, but personally this strikes me as the stupidest idea going. Who the fuck thinks this shit up? It's like movie company execs are asking 8-year-olds for ideas these days. The only possible saving grace for this film is if it in some way ties in with the Godzilla or Cloverfield movies. Seriously, the whole thing doesn't make any goddamn sense. Anywho. Let's get into August games with Gold and PlayStation Plus games. First up, on Xbox 360 we have Beyond Good and Evil and Spelunky, and on Xbox One we have WWE 2K16 and Warriors Orochi 3. Next, on PS Plus we have Ultratron on all PlayStation platforms and Patapon 3 on Vita. On PS3 we have Retrograde and Yakuza 5, and finally on PS4 we have Rebel Galaxy and Tricky Towers. It seems Xbox has done pretty well for themselves. 360 is a little hit and miss depending on your tastes, but Warriors Orochi 3 seems a decent Dynasty Warriors sort of game, and WWE 2K16 is a pretty solid title being from a very popular franchise and only a year old, so not too shabby. However, on PlayStation it's more like hit and miss, and the hits aren't even that great. With the Vita aside, which itself doesn't have the best offering, the PS3 essentially has some random rhythm game and the fairly renowned Yakuza 5, which isn't very old in the West. But on PS4 we have, excluding the indie bullet hell game Ultratron, which is on all platforms, Tricky Towers, essentially a reimagining of Tetris, and Rebel Galaxy, which to be fair I've heard good things about, but I don't think it's going to set the world on fire. So for PS Plus it's more like a single hit and a bunch of likely misses. Oh, and in a side note, could the PlayStation blog stop calling the monthly games free games, seeing as you can only get them if you pay money for your subscription? That shit really annoys me. Something's not free if you have to pay for it. An Amazon listing for a Metal Gear Solid 5 Definitive Edition was discovered by Reddit users and has since been pulled from the site. What all this means is unclear. It could all just be a mix-up, but it seems more likely that the art and title are placeholder for some sort of unannounced bundle. Whether this is just a Metal Gear Solid 5 bundle with all the multiplayer DLC and Ground Zeroes, or something much more tantalising like a director's cut featuring the parts of the game and story that was said to have previously been cut by Konami due to creative differences, who knows. But it's Konami, and Konami is shit these days, so I wouldn't hold your breath for the latter. It seems to be all the rage at the moment for Amazon to keep listing unannounced games on their website, as they have posted yet another listing for a new unannounced Destiny collection. One would assume including all the Year 1 content and both the Taken King and the upcoming Rise of Iron DLC, just as they had done something very similar prior to the release of the Taken King. This makes a lot of sense, as why wouldn't they want to pitch their expansion to as large an audience as possible, and the best way to do this and encourage noobs into the series would be by releasing a collection with all the DLC. It just makes good business sense. So I find this not just likely to be more than a mix-up, but almost inevitable. Epic founder Tim Sweeney really doesn't seem to be a fan of what Microsoft is trying to do with Windows 10 in terms of gaming, as this is the second time he's been very outspoken about his criticism for the platform. This time stating that he thinks Microsoft via Windows 10 will try and phase out Steam so as the majority of developers will be forced to no longer support Win32 applications and thus games for Steam, and instead will support their gaming platform. It all sounds pretty doom and gloom stuff, and although he has a reasoned argument, and I wouldn't put it past Microsoft to try, there isn't any direct evidence up to this point of them doing so. Plus, this scenario seems to count on Steam sitting by and doing nothing while their whole business goes down the toilet. If this is the direction Windows goes down, I would expect to see a much more concerted effort from Steam in creating a decent operating system of their own beyond their half-assed attempt with SteamOS. Plus, it doesn't take into account that some people have spent hundreds, if not thousands, on their Steam library and are not likely to abandon ship without an almighty push. Hideo Kojima has released another little CG teaser, this time a trailer for his production company as a whole, and seems to have much crossover from the Death Stranding trailer, and appears to hint of the possibility that their mascot Ludens will feature in the game in some way, even if Kojima insists that he won't. Personally, I'll believe it when I see it. And on a side note, Mr. Kojima, perhaps now is the time to stop making cool but weird CG trailers and instead focus on making the game? No? Anywho, the trailer's really short, and if you're interested in Death Stranding, definitely worth a watch. Tonic released Yooka-Laylee's toy box for Kickstarter backers. Essentially just a demo to help people get hyped for its early 2017 release and to help teach people the mechanics and feel of the game. The bland textures of the demo aside, this game looks to be shaping up real well from what I can tell, and the videos I've seen have done their job in keeping me hyped for this game. 2 new Sonic games have been announced at their special 25th anniversary event at San Diego's Comic-Con. Normally this would be news I'd brush over, as who gives a shit about Sonic anymore, but one of their new games is an old game, sort of. Let me explain. As well as making essentially what looks like another Sonic Generations game in Project Sonic, Sega is also doing a 2D retro remaster / reimagining of their classic Sonic games from the Genesis era. This game, dubbed Sonic Mania, is the first Sonic game I've been excited for since being an adult. Again, another trailer well worth a look. Let's just hope they don't follow suit and be Sega and find a way to balls it up. Nvidia finally gets its comeuppance with its whole GTX 970 and 4/3.5GB of RAM scandal. For those not in the know, the GTX 970 card was advertised as having 4GB of VRAM, and although technically this is true, they failed to mention that 512MB of this RAM was a very slow RAM and dramatically affects performance when trying to utilise all 4GB of RAM. Thus, to cut a long story short, a class action lawsuit was filed against Nvidia, and they have since agreed to a settlement in which they will reimburse 970 owners affected with what appears to be a straight up $30 refund, which sounds good to me as a GTX 970 owner. However, this settlement only seems to be applicable if you live within the US, so no $30 refund for muggins here, which sucks. A free game or something would have been a good show of faith for its international customers, but whatever, I get it. They're a business and are all about making money, and this refund is most certainly going to hurt their bottom line, as the 970 is one of the most popular cards of the Maxwell generation, so that'll be a lot of refunds to give out. Anywho, if you live in the US and have a GTX 970, you might want to look at what hoops you'll have to jump through to get your refund. A user guide on the PlayStation Asia website seems to allude to needing up to 60 square feet of space for the upcoming PlayStation VR, although there is some contradictory information suggesting that it needs significantly less space. But even so, would still need more space than the HTC Vive, which unlike PSVR gives the ability to walk around a real world room whilst in VR. However, it may just be that PlayStation is trying to cover their ass, as there is also a bunch of warnings in this manual to be cautious of your surroundings, so it could just be them trying to play it safe and avoid lawsuits due to someone breaking stuff or hurting themselves, by encouraging them to make a larger play space. Similar to how consoles try to baby you and tell you to not play for too long and go for a walk or consult your doctor if feeling unwell and all that malarkey. And in actual tangible NX rumours that seem to be legit, with many big media outlets reporting on it, There are leaks suggesting that the NX console is going to be a handheld system that uses cartridges and comes with some sort of base station for your TV and 2 detachable controllers so you can play similar to a conventional console or a couch co-op experience. And if the dev kits are anything to go by, will also be powered by a variation of the Nvidia Tegra X1 chip, found in such hardware as the Nvidia Shield, which if true is a bit of a worry, as that will put the NX's power somewhere between the Wii U and Xbox One, which, although not too shabby, is not all that impressive. However, some media outlets have gone on to speculate that with the Nintendo stating that they will be using industry-leading chips in the NX, possibly meaning that the Tegra X1 is just placeholder tech for the dev kits, while Nvidia works on the new Pascal generation Tegra chip, the X2, which would indeed be industry leading, and could put them on par with the standard Xbox One or PS4, which is actually quite impressive for a handheld. However, even though I find that scenario more exciting, it still leaves me a little worried for the NX's future, as even though they smashed it out of the park with the 3DS and know what they're doing with the handheld market, I still have a couple of issues. First, this market is still being eaten into on a daily basis by mobile. Second, we already had a powerful handheld system in recent memory called the PlayStation Vita, and wasn't all that successful due to poor advertising and the more hardcore games touted for the system being less conducive to a handheld experience. Perhaps the difference with the NX is the TV base station being more useful for hardcore gaming experiences, or that Nintendo knows how to blend that mix of both casual and hardcore games down into the perfect handheld experience thanks to the success of the 3DS. But for me this is all irrelevant, as without third-party support, no matter how good the NX hardware is, it will be doomed to fail like the Wii U, if left without third-party games. Which, unlike the 3DS that thrived and had plenty of third-party support being a massive part of its success. Leading on from that, and on a more positive note, yet another high-ranking executive, this time Strauss Zelnick from game publisher Take-Two, publishers of such games as BioShock and GTA, has come out in praise of the upcoming NX, saying that he believes in Nintendo's new hardware, and has faith in Nintendo, stating that the recent slump with the Wii U is intentional and something they tend to do with their hardware at the end of its life cycle. That they just tend to disappear before coming back with a bang, and that they have been doing this for a very long time. And much like Ubisoft CEO, seems to be very optimistic for the future of the NX. And finally, leaked gameplay footage of the highly anticipated No Man's Sky has been doing its rounds on the internet, as some crazed fan with more money than sense supposedly paid nearly $1,300 via eBay to get this game early, and then subsequently went on to post Let's Play videos of his early gameplay experiences on sites like Dailymotion. However, the uploader has since stopped making these videos, stating that it's giving him a headache dealing with all the fallout of posting footage early, and decided he didn't want to be the guy to spoil everybody's excitement. That said, although probably difficult to find now, personally I would suggest not watching the whole thing, but scanning through one of these vids, as having watched some of one of these videos, I'm glad I did, as it has tempered my hype for the game by bringing my expectation down to earth. Pun always intended. And helping to make my excitement for this game more realistic by taking a little glimpse into what the game's actually going to play like, as I feel most people's expectations of this game is way too high and potentially unachievable even if the game turns out to be great, thus risking leaving people disappointed. So in a weird way, I think this very minimal leak, at least from the video I saw, is actually somewhat a positive for the game. So, that was my recap of the week's gaming news or points of interest. I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I'll miss each week, so feel free to post anything you're into that I missed in the comments section for discussion. Anywho, if you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, share and subscribe for more BS of a similar nature. Thank you and goodbye.